Hi, my name's Jim Phillips, and I'm coming to you from Nairobi, Kenya. I grew up in central Illinois, spent my first, I think, 32 years there before my wife and I moved to Mesa, Arizona to be mentored under the leadership of John Hindy and Leroy Lawson at the Central Christian Church. And I've had the opportunity to serve as an associate pastor, as a pastor of outreach and world missions, as a senior pastor. The last 2 years, I've had the opportunity to found a new ministry called Live Your Mission, and we've been training pastors internationally now. And God has just been doing amazing things in our hearts as well as in the lives of the people that we've had the opportunity to train. I just want to take a few minutes to share with you some of the impact in my life through sharing with others. It's all about relationship. It all started for me when I was just 23 years of age, and I was excited about what Jesus had done in my life, had shared my faith with others, but I didn't have anything that I felt like I could train someone else to do. The Lord had blessed me where I had had the opportunity to lead at least one person to Christ ever since I was about 13 or 14 years old. I just couldn't teach anybody else to kind of do what I had done, and was eager to kind of find that Apostle Paul to Timothy about teaching other men how to represent what you've been taught. And I was eager to do that with my faith in a spirit of evangelism. And so that led me and my wife, my new wife, we'd been married for a month when we moved to Mesa, Arizona. And the next 18 months had the opportunity to internship with Central Christian Church with Dr. Leroy Lawson and John Hindy. And it was through my relationship with John that I had the opportunity to learn what was then called the Peace Treaty. It's now called It's All About Relationship. And learn a group of lessons that I could share with other people, that they could share with others. And so it's been a tremendous journey. I was excited the very first time I experienced the lessons for myself in an evangelistic setting as John and I were studying with a young woman. I watched her come to faith, but I was so eager to go home and even just to start teaching my wife. But a couple of weeks later, we had the opportunity to be teaching a young couple on Sunday afternoons for an hour or so, and we would go home every afternoon celebrating what God was doing in their life. They were far from God. They had had marriage problems. They were about our age, so we're actually helping somebody our age. That was exciting. But to see them be hungry every week for us to arrive to teach them was so exciting. And the week that we walked through the marriage and Christianity comparison, we watched them accept Christ, was a life-changing experience for us for more reasons than we fully understood in that moment. That was a Sunday afternoon. We left their house about 4:30 in the afternoon. And about 9 o'clock that night, Joni called me and started asking all different kinds of questions about the baptistry water. They'd made a commitment to be baptized into Christ. We were going to do that the next night. And so we were so excited, and all of a sudden I was wondering, is she like getting ready to back out? Are they changing their minds? What's going on? So she asked so many peculiar questions. I finally said, hey, Joni, can I just ask you, where are these questions coming from? And to our surprise, what she said in the next few moments solidified in my heart the desire to train others. And she said this, well, Jim, you and Janice would leave our home every Sunday afternoon and leave the lessons with us. And on Sunday evenings, we were taking our next door neighbors through the same lessons. And about a half hour ago, they made a decision to be baptized into Christ like we did earlier in the afternoon. We just want to know, could they be baptized with us tomorrow night? I tell you what, I was so excited about what I just heard. Here is a young couple who had just accepted Christ, had this great message of new hope and faith in their life, and they had been sharing it every week with their next door neighbors. That in itself was great reason for rejoicing. In the next 3 months, they grew a little study in their home and just kept sharing. In 3 months' time, they had over 30 people meeting in their home, many of which they had led to Christ. They had never been through our training. They had experienced the training. And that in itself kind of sealed the deal for me that this is something that I want to be a core value in my ministry. And it has been now for 34 years. Kent and Joni aren't the only ones. This has happened 2 or 3 times now in our ministry where we've shared Christ with someone through taking them through the lessons of It's All About Relationship, just to find out they've been sharing it with someone else. And I can recall another time where a couple said, could we make a phone call, or take a time out in our lesson to make a phone call? And I said, sure, what's going on? They said, well, we've been sharing this with some friends, and now that you're talking about being baptized into Christ, we'd like them to come over. They just live a couple blocks away. Could they come down and hear what we're hearing? And sure enough, their friends came over, and we shared the lesson that night, and all 4 of them were baptized into Christ. That was very cool. Another young guy was working at a car dealership, and we didn't know, as we shared with he and his wife, that he was sharing with a couple other people at work. He led them to Christ. Just some really amazing things happen when the gospel takes root in people's hearts and lives, and they're eager to share it. And in all 3 of those cases, they had the lessons right there and could walk right back through the lessons with someone else and lead them to Christ. That currently leads me to today. I'm recording this in Nairobi, Kenya. I've been here for 2 years now, off and on. I'm not here full time. I come to Kenya for about 3 to 5 weeks at a time, 3 or 4 times a year. I'm glad to report that just over the last 2 weeks, John Hindi has been back with me on this journey. We've been in Uganda, in Jinja, Uganda, where we trained 97 people. Then we went to Busia, which is a community of a couple 100,000 on the border of Kenya and Uganda, and we trained 129 there. And here in Nairobi, about 40 people. And it's just been a tremendous journey over the last couple weeks. But the urgency to share this training has come out of the effectiveness of what God is doing in the hearts of leaders who are being trained. My enthusiasm kind of reached a peak over the last couple years when I've been mentoring and training about 80 leaders from the local churches of Northwest Kenya, leaders that have had very little education outside of their ministries. And so we've been bringing that to them. And most of those leaders now are using It's All About Relationship in their evangelism. They represent about 55 to 60 different churches, about 80 leaders. We took kind of a State of the Union address with them when we first started mentoring them. And in 2013, before we came, only 50 people had been baptized into Christ and started their journey of discipleship under the Lordship of Jesus Christ in 2013. Always a reason for rejoicing, but admittedly, the leaders were saying, we're not trained in evangelism. We don't really know what to do. And so they asked for that training, and we provided it through It's All About Relationship. That was exactly 24 months ago. And today, those same leaders have baptized over 1,000 people into Christ. And that's not just a figure. Those are real life people, and they're seeing that addition in their local ministries. Several of them have shared with me where Their church had been stuck at 20 to 30 people for 3, 4, 5, 6 years, and they'd never grown. And I'm happy to report that those same leaders are now sharing. My church has 80 adults, 90 adults, 120 adults. I have real life pictures of leaders in my mind when I say those numbers because they're rejoicing at the health of their churches and excited that not just they as a pastor, but some of their leaders are trained in sharing it's all about relationship, which leads people to a point of decision about Christ. Will you make him Lord or will you walk away? Will you start a new relationship with God? And so very excited to report that it's all about relationship is alive and well. God is using it in so many people's lives, and we'd encourage you to think about how you could become better trained in sharing your faith to the point where you could train others. And I'm thankful that in Ukraine, the country of Georgia, the U.S., throughout some Eastern European countries, in Uganda and Kenya, the gospel never sleeps, where we've had the opportunity to train other leaders how to share. It's all about relationship. So encourage you, dive in, be trained, become a trainer, multiply your ministry, and experience the joy of a legacy of faith well beyond your homeland. Blessings. Hope God blesses your life as well.